Hello, everybody, and welcome to another ACG conversation about mental performance. This is DJ McMoil, Director of Mental Performance Coaching at ACG, sitting down with Jake Hummel. Jake, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thanks for having
Great.
me.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. Everyone knows Jake more than they know me, but I'll give a bio of him anyway. Jake Hummel is the current linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens in the National Football League, straight out of Des Moines, Iowa. He had a fantastic 5-year career at Iowa State where he earned multiple academic, all Big 12 honors. He had 228 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions, and has forged himself a really, really solid and inspiring career in the NFL, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Jake, I think what people really want to hear more than me talking about you is you talking about you. So why don't we just start with kind of your journey into the NFL, starting back in Iowa as a kid? How did you decide that you were going to play football? How did you get started in your sport?
Oh man, I mean, I think that's just you grew up watching it on the television as a family, and it slowly just builds into an obsession almost. And me and all my brothers, I grew up with 3 brothers, and we all loved football. And we collected football cards. We bought all the gear and stuff like those kids sets where you have like the crappy plastic helmets and
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and we'd be playing in the backyard constantly, playing football around in the neighborhood with neighborhood friends and with each other. So that's how we just grew up, around the sport. And then really, I thought I thought it was gonna be a wrestler because my dad put us into the sport at a very young age. My dad was a big time wrestler, and so he put us into wrestling from like I said early on, and then from there, my 2 sports were mainly wrestling and football, just growing up. But since I think it was part of like how early I got introduced into wrestling, I kind of almost grew to like not love it. Just like I think I was just kind of burnt out of it by the time I was getting to that high school age, and I think that's when especially my love for football kind of um, came out even more. It's just because I just wanted to do that so much more than I wanted to wrestle. And um, like I think wrestling is a great sport, and I have a huge respect for that sport. But I think it's also one of the hardest. So and it's a hard sport to love. I think you have to really want to do it and love the sport to actually be good at it. And I just didn't have that love for that sport. And I was a solid wrestler, but again, I just just didn't love it. And so I kind of shift my focus to football. And so by the time I got to high school, that's kind of what I knew I wanted to do, like focus on. And I ran track in high school as well. I played basketball on the side with like in a church league at the YMCA with my buddies. So tried to keep my athleticism in other realms as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, by the time I got to high school, I knew football was, my thing, and that's what I wanted to focus my energy on. I didn't know how far that would take me at the time, and even then I was a good football player, but I don't think I was on anyone's radar as a young recruit, early in high school or anything like that.
I always think that's really interesting, Jake. We work with a lot of student athletes, obviously on the mental side, and as we get into goal setting and we get into their aspirations, um, I don't know. It's interesting. Even when I coach soccer, most kids will say because they love their sport, they would love to get paid to do it and do it as their career, and so that ends up in the goal board. Was that something that was always on your mind, like? I want to go professional in this. I could go professional in this.
I don't think that reality ever hit me until I was in college. Like I was just trying to be the best football player for my high school team. Um, like I was just trying to, help my. Honestly, I think I was just trying to help my team win football games. Like I didn't
Yeah.
really think about it much further than that, and I just wanted to be the best player I could be for my team. And like I think, and I went to a high school that was very high, like highly regarded in terms of football in our state. But when I was a freshman, we started a streak of 7 straight football state championships. So every year I was in high school, we won the state championship. And I remember, my freshman, sophomore years, I wasn't on varsity. But I remember once I got onto the varsity team, I remember it felt like it felt like that was the most important thing in the world was to win the state
Definitely.
championship because we had to
Yeah, you didn't want to be the
uphold
team
that
that didn't,
excellence.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you didn't win the state championship, you were a disappointment. That's what it felt like. So um, that's what I think a lot of us felt even on our high school team, and that was like our one goal for everyone was just like, yeah, it was state championship or nothing type thing. And so we had it was a good tradition at our high school of like just really good football, really good coaching. We've had a lot of good players too, but I think a lot of us also just bought into that like standard of excellence, and we took it seriously. It's as silly as it sounds, like in high school, but like it meant the world to us. Yeah.
I don't think it sounds silly at all because anyone who's been in that high school environment knows like, and I actually think it's a good mindset. The thing that you're in at the time, it is like that's your Super Bowl, that's your World Cup, that's your moment. What high school did you go to out of
Went
curiosity?
to Dowling Catholic. It's in
Okay,
West Des Moines.
yeah, great. We'll
Yeah.
probably have a lot of people listening to this from Iowa, I would imagine. So
Yeah, I
um,
hope so.
doesn't hurt to have a Dowling Catholic shout out. And I've coached a lot of soccer players who attend Dowling Catholic right now, which is just a small world. So
Yeah.
that's incredible. I did not know that you were part of this amazing run of state championships. And people, maybe not everyone listening knows, but now especially people in Iowa take their high school football very seriously, very seriously.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
not just easy to roll your way to not one but 7 state championships in a row. So that's pretty cool to be a part of, man. And so the mindset was help the team, help the team, help the team. How did the recruitment process start for you? How did it click? Like, I'm gonna go play Division I football.
You know, um, I guess it was kind of one of those situations where they kind of found me. Um,
Yeah.
I remember going to some camps, like some college camps in the area where they do, for for high school kids, high school prospects. I remember doing that after my sophomore year, and there was no attention around me at all. I started just going to those camps and um, taking part in them. But like again, no one like there was no coaches coming up to me and talking to me
Mm.
after those until it wasn't until my after my junior year. It was my first full year on varsity. I started the whole season, and we won the state championship, and I had a very good year. Um, and then as soon as basically it almost felt like as soon as that season ended, maybe a week or two later, I got a I woke up to like a bunch of missed calls, and it was a bunch of numbers I didn't have, and then it was my head coach at Dowling, and so I call him back, and he's like, "You need to call this number. It's the head coach at Iowa State." And sure enough, I get on the phone with Coach Campbell for the first time, and this was after his first year at Iowa State, and they were trying to, he gave me the whole spiel about how they're trying to rebuild or build a program at Iowa State, and so that was my first conversation with Campbell, and then he actually offered me a scholarship at the end of that conversation. So that's just how it started for me, and that was my first time ever even thinking that. Well, I mean, I thought about playing college football, but
Definitely.
it wasn't
Yeah.
like I didn't know if it was that much of a reality for me, especially at that at a Power Five, Big 12. It's like I mean, it was really cool, and especially being an Iowa State fan my whole life. Like Iowa State, football wasn't all that good when I was growing up, but like even still, like I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Just being able to, if I could put on that helmet, it would have been when growing up. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So it was very surreal and special moment when Campbell gave me that first phone call, and yeah, that made me realize my potential for maybe for the first time as as a high school athlete. So
Yeah, I'm really curious about that kind of shift, potential shift in self-perception. Like you have a picture maybe of like obviously you know that you're good at the sport, but then that call comes and it kind of puts in your head of like, oh, they consider me, like I just got offered money for the first time in my life to play this sport in the form of a scholarship. Um, did it change anything about your approach? Did it have an impact on your work ethic? Did it have an impact on the way that you thought about your future in the game? Did that conversation change anything else for you and how you approach football?
no, I actually don't think so. I was already kind of just working my butt off. Like I think um, that was something um, like my dad probably instilled into me and my brothers like from a very early age, and he didn't care what we did as long as like you find whatever sport you love or whatever you want to do. He's like, you gotta, you know, it's the hours and the work that you put into it. That's what will get you there. And that will take you as far as you want to go. And because that's how he made a living in wrestling. He just lived in the gym, and his whole mindset on the wrestling mat, because he wasn't the most talented person on the mat or usually in the room, but he was just going to outwork you, and he was going to win his match in the third period when his opponent was tired. And so he always beat that message into us. Like he almost, I shouldn't say beat, but not literally, but
Yeah, yeah.
he always, hammered that into us and made sure that we were, if we really wanted to do something at the highest level, like, or at our highest level, then we needed to put the work in. And so me and my younger brother Levi, like we understood that. And a lot of and like I said, a lot of the people at my high school were kind of doing that already, like just because of the tradition that lived there. And so we loved. I think I remember going and working out at our high school in the summer, like part of our workouts like our summer workouts that were part of the football team, and then we would hang out all day, and then we would later on go to the YMCA in the afternoon. Like, so we were getting like almost like 2 day workouts in almost on a daily basis in the summer, and it's just because we could,
Yeah.
and we loved it. And yeah, so I think it was kind of all that was already there, and I loved like that part of it, the grind of it, and and I think at that age too, it's cool is because you can see a lot of progress in yourself. There's a lot of development that's happening at that age, especially. So you're like you can directly see the gains from the work you're putting in, and I think that helps. Um, it confirms all the things that you've been told. Um, so if you're really putting that work in, like, you'll see the gains, and so it's cool. It was cool, and I think that, like I said, I think that work with ethic was already there, and maybe from there, it almost just kind of boosts your confidence a little bit of like, oh, like, and it kind of reassures you like, oh, like all this stuff I was doing has been right. So
I think that's a great message for the student athletes listening. It's like you're already doing the work and then you get rewarded for it instead of needing kind of these external things to come in and like, now I got my scholarship. Now I'm motivated to work hard. It's like that work is already taking place. And like you said, man, at that age, I miss that so much of just like you do a
oh, I do
workout and
too.
you're like, oh,
I do too.
now I skip a day and I'm 6 or 7 years older than you probably, but it's like, man, that
Oh yeah.
invincibility of being like 18 and I don't know. Yeah, those are pretty good times. So you're already putting the work in. The rewards come because of that, but you're just focused. I think there's two really good things there. One is the work thing, but the other is just the environment that you're in and how it's pushing you and motivating you. And you really don't. I'd say for me, like I don't know if in high school if I really thought about it as extra work. It was just like I
Yeah.
just liked what I was doing.
And I would say that's what we were doing. It was almost just like why it was just like, let's go to the gym because it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're getting that work in toward, for a greater purpose, but it's like you're also with your buddies and like having a good time at the gym. Like it's a good time.
It's hard not to enjoy. And then you win stuff, and it's like that's even better. It's
Yeah,
this
right,
all
right.
this all has aim and direction. So one of the big things that we talk with, or even really in any level of our clients, but especially student athletes, is when they jump from, maybe sub elite to elite in the youth game, or they go from high school to college, or some of our older clients transitioning from amateur to professional, or something. Right, we're changing levels for you going from high school to Division 1, big jump, Division 1 to the NFL, big jump. I'm curious how you've navigated, and just because of where we're at in your story, I guess we'll stay. How did that first transition from high school to college go for you in terms of just the level and the speed and the physicality of the game? How did you handle that transition?
I ended up playing my freshman year at Iowa State. They didn't. It was before the rule where they can you can play in 4 games and then still redshirt. So it was
Oh,
before that.
yeah.
So they actually decided not to redshirt me my freshman year. I think it was for a couple reasons. Like I don't think they necessarily needed me to play linebacker. It was more just like they saw I had kind of the speed and size already, the development already to play. I think just special teams,
Mm,
and that was that was an area where like I was just doing well, and I knew that if I was going to get on the field, it's funny because it's almost exactly how like my story to the league to the NFL is like I knew if I was going on the field, it was going to be on special teams,
mhm.
and I knew that I could tell that early on at Iowa State, especially my freshman year. Um, and at the time, we had a special teams coach that saw how hard I was working, and I think he also kind of um, lobbied to the head, to the head coaches um, why I should be playing teams that year. So they decided not to redshirt me. So I was playing special teams all my freshman year. Well, I think most of my class was mostly redshirting. So that was like a good feeling, but at the same time, you know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself in different ways, and you kind of learn early on how the difference in speed, the speed of the game, and size of players and strength. So I think that's kind of how that transition started at first, and I thought like I was on a I thought I put myself in a good position to play early on in my career, even at linebacker. Ended up not starting till my would have been my senior year. But thanks to COVID, I actually got a 5th year.
All right. Yeah.
So actually, I would say in a weird way, like in college, I would say like there were times it wasn't a very it wasn't like a straight up path. It was very much up and down, and then eventually a final rise, like a climb at the end there, where I made a lot of gains at the end of my career. I think I needed that time. I needed more time than I thought to develop as a player, physically and mentally. I think it was a combination of both. More time than I thought initially. Um, and I think part of that is just realizing, yeah, because I think you get to the college level and you're in there with all these very everyone is the best player on their high school team, and then you start hearing about other guys' stories, and these guys were like high school Americans, and
Yeah.
you have some like really big recruits too, 4 stars, and I was like a guy that had literally one offer, accepted that offer to go to college at that school. Like that was my story. Um, so there was definitely some moments of like needing to find my own confidence and realizing that I'm just as good as these guys or better. And then I think for me, it just took a while to show that I was actually capable of playing at a high level. And it just took me a little bit to develop. I think that's just what happens for some guys in college. It takes a couple more years than expected. And I think looking back on it, I've had a conversation before with my coaches at Iowa State. Like I think they would have redshirted me if they could go back and do it again.
Hmm.
Just because it was one of those things where they didn't really need to not do that or need to, play me as a freshman. And um, thankfully, in a weird way, thankfully, because of COVID, I got that 5th year. But if there wasn't a COVID scenario, I would have been done in 4 years, and I might have not had a chance at the NFL actually. So, um, in a weird way, yeah, it worked out for me in that sense. For COVID, it gave me an extra year to develop as a player, and an extra gave me a full extra year of playing. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's significant.
um,
I mean, it's really significant. What do
so
you
yeah,
think?
it was an interesting kind of ride. I feel like for me because it was a very gradual, slow climb to like seeing my improvement as a player and realizing like kind of um, where my potential lied, you know, as a football player. Like I didn't know like how good I could actually be until the end there at Iowa State. So
It's interesting. I was talking to another NFL player about how not not to sound like really old, but how kind of this like Madden career mode experience shapes the mind of aspiring young athletes. And you play a game, you get experience, you get a little bit better. You play a game, you get experience, you get a little bit better. And everything obviously in a video game is very much a straightforward trajectory, and things are just not like that. And people know that when they're in it, but things are just not like that. And the ups and downs really are required as a form of and a really important piece of the puzzle of development. The difference between an 18-year-old and a 22 or 23-year-old physically and mentally is it's insane. It's ridiculous, and you don't really, I think, know that or fully believe that until you're on the older side of that equation. um, and then you know it much better when you're like a decade past that, like you know like me. But
yeah.
I'm curious the difference between you mentally from 18 with a good work ethic, with a good upbringing, with a good story. But then you get to the end of that 5th year. And I want to get into your draft story because I think it's so interesting. But what do you think is the biggest mental difference between the freshman version of yourself and the version of yourself that had gone through that entire 5-year journey?
Yeah, I think part of it is I think there's two sides of that. Like the mental side, it's like there's this part of building the self confidence and realizing like your full potential, like um, as a player and your abilities. So like understanding like and I think you have to prove that to yourself over and over until you really believe it. So there are times where early on, like I thought I was, or throughout my college career, I thought like I wasn't very good, and you'd have your bad days, and your confidence just goes into the just tanks, and then but it takes the consistency of like showing that you can win like the majority of your snaps. It's like understanding that like on a consistent basis that you actually are like a winning player and a good player, and to build that confidence over time. I think that's part of it. And it's easy for you to like, and it's easy at times for that confidence to tank. As you just can't, but you can't let that. It's like you can't let the bad play, ruin the rest of your day type thing. That took me a long time. I feel like in college to grasp that and be able to handle that. And even at times, I mean, even now, there are times that I deal with that. So I don't think that ever really goes away for any athlete. But I think that's what took me the longest in college to understand. And then there's the mental side of the actual game, playing the actual game. I think early on, as a freshman sophomore, I had the physical attributes and physical talent, speed, the size to play at a high level, but I wasn't playing snap in, snap out mentally at a high level. Like I was kind of just like, you know, I would the snap of the ball would happen, and I'd get my initial read, and then I'd just run, in that direction or whatever, whatever my key gave me, I just run in that direction and just try to like make the play on the ball type thing. I think what changes is how intentional you are with your movement.
Yeah.
And I think part of it just comes with, your experience in the game, the more you practice, the more you play in high speed scenarios, it's like the better you get at it. But I also think at a point like you actually start to become more intentional with your movement, and you're able and like literally the game slows down. Like you're able to, you know, strike blocks more, with more intention where your hands are better placed, and then you're able to, get into positions where you're able to make better tackles rather than, where before I might just run the ball and like I might be there to make the play, but I'd fall off the tackle type thing. I think I literally became more intentional in my movement, and I think that just came with experience and yeah, just like maybe some development, physically too. But I think there are two. Yeah, I think that's the two sides mentally of it's like the confidence building, and it's like the actual X's and O's. Also playing with good technique at a high speed. I think those two have to come together to kind of make those mental jumps in whatever sport you're in, probably. So
That's brilliant, man. It's really good. It's good insight, and it's helpful for the people listening, I think, because confidence in mental performance, confidence comes up all the time. Everyone just wants to wave a magic wand and have more confidence, of course. But I think people are making the mistake of where they're sourcing their confidence from. It's very easy, especially like you said, when you're a high school athlete and you win a lot, or you're really talented, or you're really successful. You can kind of get addicted to sourcing your confidence from just that success, just from the outcomes of your performance, rather than understanding that work ethic is a better source of confidence. Consistency is a better source of confidence. Internal validation is a better source of confidence than external. All these things that are more within your control get you through harder, because yeah, success will come and go, all these kinds of things. But we see people sourcing their confidence a lot from the wrong spots. And it's a good lesson for you to take away, because your college career ends, the NFL draft takes place. I think it was 2022. Is that right?
yep.
And I think people want to hear that story. I know I do from you. So tell me about your decision to enter the draft. Tell everyone who doesn't know, kind of what happened and ending up in LA and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so um, yeah, I don't think I ever realized like fully that I could play in the NFL till my last year, I think, at Iowa State. There was one moment before that where I think it was after my third year at Iowa State, and they had their pro day at the university for the guys graduating and trying to make the NFL. And I was walking through like our training room or something, and that day there's like tons of scouts in the building, and just tons of people walking around. And I think it was a Browns, Cleveland Browns like scout was like walking through the training room like trying to find the field, and he asked me which way the field was, and then he asked me what player I was, and I was like, oh, I'm Jake Hummel, like, and he's like, oh, so you're not in this today? I'm like, no. He's like, you're 35, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh yeah, you'll have a chance. Keep up the good work, like type thing. Like you'll have a shot someday. And so I was like, that was really weird and
Hmm.
kind of cool type thing, and that's kind of when that first kind of little bit of you know realization that could be that could be real for me. Um, so then I finished my last 2 years at Iowa State, and my senior year was definitely, or my last year, it would be my fifth year, my COVID year. Was definitely the year I made my most gains as a player, and just the most consistent ball I played as a college player. Like I was grading out consistently in the 90s as a linebacker, and then just I think led the team in tackles that year. I also was put in a situation Another great linebacker, also a very good friend of mine, Mike Rose, he was the year before he was Defensive Player of the Year on our team, or in the Big 12 actually. So he's a stud player,
Man.
and he was playing our Sam linebacker spot, and I was playing the Will linebacker spot. So my 5th year, when I was having my best year, he actually was dealing with a lot of injury. So they had me, playing both spots at times. So I think that also helped me a lot, just show my versatility as a player, playing me more in space on the outside as well in the box. So there's a combination of like a couple good opportunities that allowed me to showcase what I was able to do on the field. And then on top of all that, since I had played 5 years on special teams, I think I had the most snaps on special teams of any player in college football. So coming out, so we finished our year in our bowl game against Clemson. We lose that game, but I ended on a pretty high note. I had a good game as well. I had a hard time finding an agent just because I was kind of like that, likely go undrafted special teams linebacker type prospect. Wasn't invited to the combine, none of that stuff. So I was having a hard time finding an agent. I went on to the NFLPA's website, and they have a list of um, like NFLPA approved agents. And I just started emailing people,
Yeah,
asking
sure.
if they wanted to represent me, and I ended up through a family connection, ended up finding somebody and he wasn't willing to pay for any training for pro day or anything like that. He was just gonna offer some like meals to like go with my training, and I'd have to train at Iowa State.
Man.
And I was totally okay with doing that. I figured it would be, if I was gonna make the league, it would be kind of like a route like that. Um, so going into my last bowl game, my buddy on that, he's also a roommate, and he's actually my current teammate now on the Ravens,
That's cool.
Charlie Kolar.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, he had already had an agent, and he was a bigger NFL prospect than I was, and he told his agent who was coming to our game, our bowl game. He said, "Watch my roommate, number 35, Jake Hummel, and like he needs an agent. Like tell me what you think of him." So I played well in that game, and then afterwards, Charlie texts me, goes, meet me at the hotel. I'm meeting with my agent. He wants to talk to you. So that's how I got an agent, was because of
Incredible,
my
man. So
roommate.
Charlie was your agent first, and
Yeah,
then
so yeah, Charlie represented me first, and
yeah.
then so he always brings that up. It's like I owe him
Oh,
still
I'd
for
never
that.
stop
So
talking about it. I would
yeah,
never stop
so
talking about it.
um, so yeah, he got me in contact with his agent, and then sure enough, like I sat down with him, and still my agent to this day, Steve Carrick, and he was just like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Charlie's flying out to California on like Tuesday or whatever. I would love to have you, love to represent you, and I'll pay for your training, all that." So like literally within 2 days, I was flying to California with Charlie, and um, that's kind of how my story started, as in terms of like getting ready for pro day. Um, so I had a great time out there at a place called Cal Strength, training for pro day. Um, and that's what's kind of weird about the NFL journey, especially like that rookie year where you're going through all that process of, you play your last game as a college player, you sign with an agent, you go train, and then it's like there's all these milestones you have to check, and then but each time you check a milestone, it's like that only means there's more work
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's like this weird constant. Um, yeah, it's like you celebrate, but it's like that just means you got to go to work even more. Um, so that's what like that whole rookie year was like. Um,
Yeah.
and you're just kind of living it day to day, just trying to get to that next, check that next box. You're not really even thinking about what team you're going to be on, like how fall camp's going to go. You're just thinking
Uh-huh.
about that next thing. So that's kind of what that year felt like for me. Went from training for pro day. All it was from there was like stay healthy, have a good pro day, like show what you can do physically. The worst thing you can do on a pro day or a combine day is have a bad day. You just can't have a bad day. Even if you
Yeah.
have like an okay day and just kind of hit your marks type thing, like you'll be fine. You just can't have a bad day. So, there's a lot of pressure around that day, but I ran really well. Ran a good 40. Showed what I could do there, and then from there, um, teams see that like, okay, he checks all these boxes. Like I think, and then for me, I was kind of like the perfect like undrafted undrafted linebacker that would make possibly make a team by playing special teams, and that's I think my agent knew that, and it's kind of what he was selling me as to teams, and I think that's what teams were looking at me as.
Sure.
So that's we go into the draft day process, and I don't think I'm going to get drafted, but there's a small chance to go late round, but most likely go undrafted, sign with a team that wants you, you know, and that's a good roster situation, and that's kind of what happened. Just going into the draft, me and my agent talked about what teams would be best for me if I go undrafted and who had the most interest, and we already knew that if I go undrafted, I'm gonna probably go to the Rams because it's a good roster situation. They like me a lot as like a special teams guy, and they need special teams linebackers.
Yeah.
So, and that's what kind of we settled on, and that's sure enough what happened.
Just
Um,
like that.
just like that, and yeah. So and like I said, it's like every time. So like yeah, like that was fun. Like that was really sweet too. Like even going undrafted to an NFL team, like that was a dream come true. But that only means there's more work to do, and that's like you got to. That means nothing in terms of making the team. You got to earn that spot, and it's especially hard to do that as an undrafted guy. Um, so yeah, it was that was kind of the start of it. Um, and then you move on to you show up for spring workouts with them. You kind of get introduced to the team, you get introduced to the playbook, and then all I did from there was just study as much as I could of the playbook, and then when it came to special teams, just be the hardest working guy on teams, like, and just find a way to show that you can play on each of the four phases at this level, and like that's how you're gonna make the team. Like they weren't looking for a starting linebacker. They were looking for a guy that can play all four special teams. So their starting Mike linebacker doesn't have to. Um, so and I knew that, and so that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, and also how I earned a spot.
Yeah, but so and then you come in and the mentality makes sense, but you don't just come in and squeak through the door, right? I believe that you came in and set the preseason record for tackles for the Los Angeles Rams. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's part of because they play. I mean, I played the whole game for all
Yeah.
three, and I was lucky enough to do that. I don't think a lot of teams let their young guys play that much. But the Rams, they let me play. I green dotted all three games, so I was calling the plays, and then I literally played every single snap of defense for all three
Man.
games.
So they
So
want
I
a
mean,
real good look at Jake Hummel. They said, "Let us see this kid
yeah,
play."
yeah. Well, yeah. In a weird way, it's like it's only good because it's like you're getting a ton of experience right away, and and yeah, like it's just like you're gonna get your tape out there. So even if they don't, even if the Rams don't end up taking me, it's like I have three full preseason games worth of tape that's available to any other team,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
um, that's another way. Like that's where I also like credit the Rams is like they like to showcase their young players, and that's what they're going to use their preseason for. And I was able to take advantage of that, and yeah.
I like that mindset too, man. It's like every moment right now is an opportunity anyway. Like it might be here, it might be someone, but let me kind of showcase my do you think that you have it seems like you do have like a somewhat defined set of values that no matter the occasion, whether it's a preseason game, regular season, playoffs, this is how I want to represent Jake Hummel. This is what I want people to see when I play. It sounds like maybe there's some messaging from your dad that shines through, some messaging from the culture that you learned in high school that's come through. Give people a sense of like, what's kind of driving you to perform with this consistency in this way when you play. What are the values that kind of drive you when you play football?
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. I think all those things definitely motivate uh, the the style I want to play with. What I want to show on the field, and I also think, like you said, I think it's the way my dad instilled that into me. You know, at, and a lot of like, I actually have video of my dad wrestling when he was in college, and it's like the most insane. It's like you'd think the guy was crazy, just the way he was always constantly attacking. So I think um, that's definitely an influence. And then, like you said, I think the tradition we had at my high school plays into it too, and the work ethic we had, and our coaches put into us. And then from there too, it's I think I even learned um, once I got to the NFL that I had another gear to me that I wasn't actually even hitting. And I've learned that from just watching tape of just these great NFL lines. So it's one of the. I think this is where I think I also took a next step was we'd be watching film. Once I got to the Rams of like their current starters, like Ernest Jones, who was starting Mike linebacker at the time. We had just gotten Bobby Wagner
Mm.
as a free agent, so I was then able to be in a room with a couple of great linebackers my rookie year, and we just start going through some of their tape, like from last year, and just like things to improve on, that kind of thing. And I realized just how the level of intensity you need to play with at each snap, in each snap at the NFL. Um, Otherwise, you'll just get you get your butt kicked.
Yeah.
But like, but those guys also just played with another level of intensity where they were constantly attacking. It was like you know, it's like watching like a rabid dog or something. It's just like, and I think I saw, and there's something that clicked in me then where I was like, oh, I'm like, there's another level to this, like that I need to adjust to right now, or I won't like make it type thing. And even the same thing watching, special teams. Like there's guys that make an entire career off special teams.
Yeah.
And those guys that do that, they play each snap like it's their last snap, and they're going to change. They have this mindset of they're going to change the game with their limited role. Like they don't care what that takes. And I think I saw that early on. I was lucky enough to realize that myself early on in my NFL career, and realized that like I need to take it up a notch because I like honestly I think I look back at my old tape from like occasionally, or just have seen old tape from like myself of college and even in high school, and I'm like, what am I, ever seen old tape of yourself and you're like, so you almost get angry. And
Yeah.
it's not even because
100%.
like you didn't make a play here or there. It's just like almost like just the effort you're playing with, and you get upset and you're like, you're just taking that play off.
Yeah.
And I hate like seeing that stuff for myself. And so I think that's what also happened. Like I was able to learn another lesson once I got to the NFL. And that was, and it became extra important to me. So I think that also helps, with in terms, like you said, like in terms of making the preseason tackle record for the Rams. That's like that was just because I learned that lesson, and I was just going to run to the ball as hard as I could every single play, and that's
Yeah.
probably what allowed me to do that. Um,
I think there's a thousand great things that you said in there for people, but two that are standing out to me is one. there are people listening right now who are in contention for a starting spot in their sporting environment and are busy, one, maybe making excuses, two, being upset with the person who's ahead of them and is getting the minutes that they want, and not taking the opportunity to think, what is it that this person is doing that is above my level that I could learn from and elevate what I'm doing? Watching film of people in your own environment who are excellent at what they do, instead of feeling intimidated by them or just feeling intimidated or being bitter against them. Like that seems like a really simple thing, but there's people right now listening who are complaining about the goalie ahead of them, or upset that coach is starting this person at point guard and they have to play the three, or whatever it is in their sport, right? This mindset of being a sponge, being a learner, admiring the person ahead of you, and still being competitive and still wanting that spot, but take what you can get and take what you can see, and learn as much as you can. I think that's really important. And the other thing, I think football lends itself really nicely to a mentality of every snap is an opportunity, because there are really defined stopping and starting points in the game, essentially, which isn't true in every sport. But the mentality is really, really important of every snap counts. I can make an impact right now. I can change the game right now. And actually, I remember that um, so my parents are born and raised, they live in Minnesota now, but they're born and raised in Buffalo, New York. And so they are legitimate Bills fans. Like, the 4 Super Bowl losses in a row, they were fans for that. They've been fans long before Josh Allen made the Bills a competitive team again. My parents have suffered through many Buffalo Bills seasons. And a year or two ago, you blocked a punt on special teams against the Buffalo Bills that either you guys scored off of as the special teams unit, or what was it again? You remember better than I do.
Yeah, I blocked the punt, and then a teammate picked it up and ran it in for the
Snagged it and
score.
ran it
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, got it. So, and those are huge moments, right? And I don't know, every Bills game can be an adventure, um, but that's a moment. It's just like, it's one play, and it's easy to say, oh, it's just another punt return, just another moment. But this mindset of, I can get in, I can change the game in this moment right now. Um, you can, and it's a really, really important way to approach the game. So I think those are two really fantastic things, Jake. My last question for you before we wrap up here is this: like, um, you've carved out a really good, consistent career for yourself so far. You've moved to a new team. You guys have a big season ahead of you. There's always expectations that come with your role and just being on a competitive team. But what are some of your habits as a professional, mostly for the student athletes listening? What are some of your habits as a professional that you think, you count as really important routines or really important mental habits that are going to sustain you throughout the grind of an NFL season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are a few. I think for me, it starts in the off season. Like, I think having a balance of, finding time to enjoy, yourself, your friends, your family, but also understanding that, like, the off season's a time where you can really attack your workouts in a way where you're trying to put weight on the bar, and, to get stronger, to hit, to literally, like, move the weight as heavy as you can, as fast as you can, to become more explosive, um, to go to the field, to become faster, to push your body um, to accelerate faster, to stop faster, all those things. So I think it's important to understand, like, in the off season, you have to be very intentional with your workouts. Like, you might not, and this doesn't mean you have to be working out every day type thing. It's just, and I think for me, I found a routine of, like, we might just go, a 3 day workout, like, schedule per week, where you're working out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the days in between using as rest days and active recovery stuff like yoga, etc. I think that is where it kind of starts for me, is understanding, like, you're using the off season to improve your body, your physique, your flexibility, your mobility, your speed, your strength, all those things. So then when it comes to the season, you can focus on maintaining those things, but also just finding a way to so that you yourself feel as good as you possibly can going into each week. Um, I think that's I found to be the best way to approach like this. Like when it comes to the season, physically, it's like um, understanding the schedule of the week and where your heavy days are in terms of work, and then understanding where your rest days are. So, what I like to do is keep my heavy days, and my light days, my light days. And that allows me to get like kind of just like I was explaining in my off-season training is like you keep your work days, and then you rest on your rest days. Same thing goes for the season. Like, in the NFL season, your week kind of goes like this, where you ramp up for that first like padded practice, and then that should be your heavy day where you're getting most of your work in, and then from there it's like how fast can you recover from that padded practice to get ready for the game, and then for that game it spikes back up again, and then after the game it comes back down. So it's like that constant heavy load to heavy recover. So that's kind of the flow I fell into, and I think there's a right. I'm not saying that's the only right way to do it, but that's just what I found works best for me. And for me, as from a weekly basis, after that, like first heavy load practice day where I try to get all my work in or most of my work in. From there, it's like how close to 100% can I feel for that game day, and so that's what I try to do. It's just like whether that's like different recovery modalities or you know what you're eating. Sometimes like I feel like I need to eat more going into a game to feel better, and sometimes I feel like I don't need to eat as much. It's just kind of like a weekly feel thing, and as long as I feel mentally like I'm at close to 100%, I think that results in my body feeling pretty close to that too. So, and then so I'd say that's like kind of my physical regimen. Mentally, I guess that could be different, just because the season can have so much up and down, and that your confidence can rise and your confidence can fall at different times. I think the main thing is just like it's kind of approaching uh, each day of like with this mentality of like things are never as good or as bad as you think they are. Um, even when things think that even if you're having like a really good week of practice and you're playing really well, like you can never you can't get too high on your horse, and just you got to keep your level head, because things can turn quickly, right? And I think it's easy to get humbled in this sport. That's happened to me so many times where I think I'm riding high, and then almost instantly I'll get humbled and reminded like you're not that guy,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
you're not
Quickly. Yeah.
invincible, and so I think also, but the same thing goes the other way, where just because you had a bad practice, bad play, et cetera, like it's not the end of the world type thing. Like that doesn't that one player, one game doesn't you know define your season, doesn't define your career, who you are as a player, etc. So I think it's kind of finding that middle road of just don't get too high with the highs and don't get too low with the lows type thing. I think that's kind of which is hard though. I'm not saying
Really
that's
hard.
easy. I think that's what everyone is kind of chasing. And then finally, I think on the mental side, it's like always, it's like trying to stay on the attack, and it's just like it just kind of goes back to the way you play the game too. It's like um, you can never assume that like you're just going to oppose your will on another team. Like that's like a crazy thing to assume. And I think it's there are times where like teams and players can fall into that where they think they can just show up and they'll be able to do their thing. I think you're constant. It's like those people are. literally trying to stop you from doing those things. So I think it's important to just stay on that attack mentality where you have to remind yourself that you got to win each snap and you got to fight to win that snap. So I think that those are the two things where I try to stay on the most mentally.
That's really, really good, man. A young golfer asked me last week, what's one of the things I think is the difference between like an elite athlete and non-elite athlete in terms of their mentality. And that rationality is one of the things that I mentioned is not trying to stay off the emotional roller coaster of the highs and lows. And I think you have to be able to have access to a really broad range of emotions to be your most competitive self. But I think you want to be
Yeah.
able to choose from that spectrum and not be, not be thrown into one end or the other as often.
Yeah, and
Um,
I should say, it doesn't mean, yeah, be a robot, and
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But
it's
can you
not that.
select
It's like,
on the spectrum?
if anything, it's like you can definitely use your emotion in your game,
Yeah,
and I can feel your game, and there's no doubt about that. I think there are times where I feel like where I'm most vulnerable is on the field in terms of just my true self. So I think using your emotions on the field is a good thing at times. You just, in terms of just reacting to a good or a bad play, I think it's important to just like stay and when you're, yeah, stay on that level
that's exactly right.
playing field where you're not getting too high just because you had one good play.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
doesn't mean you're gonna have a good. It's just because you had a good play at the beginning of the game doesn't mean the rest of the day is gonna go well,
yeah,
type thing. So that's what I mean by that. It doesn't mean, yeah, it definitely doesn't mean you can't play with emotion or joy or all those things. It's like, or if like you're the other way where you need to motivate yourself by just getting pissed off for no reason, like that's totally cool too. Like sometimes that I do that too. So it's like,
for sure.
um, yeah, I think that's not those are two different things to me.
Totally
It's
agree.
more of a reaction thing,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
choosing what your next action is going to be. Um,
it's great, man. It's really good. So you guys start your season a week from today. Um, you have the
yep.
Bills. Do you not have three out of your first four games? You have the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs. Not to overlook anyone, but
I think you're right. Yeah, I don't even know who played week 2.
I've not memorized your schedule, but I tried to
Yeah,
look at it before we talked. So that's
yeah. That sounds right though. It's
that's
not.
that's
Yeah,
a,
I think our
that's a very
first 6
solid start
games
to the
are. I think
season.
our first. So I remember looking at the schedule and thinking we have a bye week. I think week 7. It's like every game before that is like it's like gauntlet. So
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah. Well, a great test. You guys will know you'll know who you are by the bye week and can catch your breath. And that's exciting, man. That's exciting. So everyone listening, make sure to tune in to the Baltimore Ravens this season. Jake, any last words for anyone listening who might aspire to be where you are now or aspire to be professional in their sport someday? Any last piece of advice?
man, I don't know. I guess just I would just ask, get to ask yourself, what part of your life are you doing enough? Like, in which parts of your life are you not doing enough? I think that's important. Just like, and that could be anything, whether that's, you need more time in your whatever you're working towards or less.
Hmm.
For me, at times, like it's important for me to also like, um, I like to get my work in at work, and when I come home, I'm spending that time with my family. So, and I'm able to be present there too. I think all those things, like, you know, being a good brother, sister, wife, husband, son, being those things are important too. So make sure you're present for those people that you care about the most. I'd say
It's
that's
fantastic.
just as important as like whatever you're striving for. So
Falls
yeah,
apart quickly without that, very quickly. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for talking with us. This is DJ with Jake Hummel, ACG Mental Performance. Thanks everyone for listening, and make sure to tune in next time.